Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. I'm Randy Wright, and I'll be your captain on this solo flight special edition of our state-of-the-art radio program. Folks, this will be the final boarding call, so if you please, claim your seats, fasten your seatbelts, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show while I go ahead and delve into the pre-flight checklist, as there really is a lot of news and information to get to before I may fully indulge you with your in-flight entertainment. Well, folks, here we are. It's Halloween. October 31st, 2016, exactly 7 days before the American people head to the ballot box to cast their vote for whom they believe is best qualified to be the next president of these United States of America. But as we have covered for well over a year now, folks, here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, we see that the fiasco that is the 2016 presidential election cycle has left the American people with two of the most unpopular presidential candidates in the entire history of our electoral process in this great representative republic of ours. And one of the things that has come to the forefront with respect to all of this is that there is just a complete and total lack of honesty. We are dealing with the most dishonest candidates that I think we could arguably say have vied for the highest office in the land, at least in living memory, maybe even in all of our presidential history, but I think it's more of just in living memory. And so where do we go from here? How do we make things right? Well, what we've always said is that you have to go to the Constitution, that the Constitution is that grand key that has been with us since the inception of our nation some 235 plus years ago. But with respect to what's happening with Hillary Clinton, things are getting much worse for her. It should have been a lot easier for her to win, particularly considering who her opponent is. We know that Donald Trump is essentially the same thing as what Hillary Clinton is. He was a long-term friend of hers, and for the vast majority of the 70 years he has spent on God's green earth, Trump has supported and espoused progressive views. When you look at Terry McAuliffe, the governor of Virginia, we know that Trump was donating to his coffers at least as late as 2014 and to the tune of about $100,000. You see, folks, these are the things that you can't make up. But with Hillary Clinton, another thing you can't make up is the name of her spokesperson, one of her spokespeople, who is Mook. His name is Mook. Can you believe that? Robbie Mook was doing everything he could to try and avoid the grilling that Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace gave him about why Hillary Clinton had been lying with respect to the FBI letter that had been sent to Congress. And it appeared that he was just failing spectacularly. He admitted essentially that Clinton had lied. And if this is the type of help that Clinton has, or this is the type of people that are working for Clinton, she really needs to reevaluate her people. But that's the thing. Whenever it comes to the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists, they always elevate those who are incapable just as long as they toe the party line and do everything to assist or promote or advocate their cause of incrementally transforming the body politic of this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours away from being a constitutionally endowed federalist representative republican form of government to some Fabian dystopia. But folks, as always, we here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, say don't just take our word for it. We want you to hear it from these people themselves and to make up your own mind. So I've got the video clip of Mr. Mook. It's about 3 minutes, 5 seconds, give or take, where he is essentially grilled by Chris Wallace. So I'm going to go ahead and key that up. and then we will discuss it in much greater detail because I think it's of that great importance. We'll see if the screen share will let me do it the way I want to here, and it is. So here we go. Let me go ahead and switch the audio over to that, and then we will discuss it in greater detail. So here we go. Hold on, just there, and now here we go.
Whatsoever. Robbie, I want to move on, and I want to ask you about Secretary Clinton's reaction. Here's part of what she said on Friday night.
If they're going to be sending this kind of letter that is only going originally to Republican members of the House, that they need to share whatever facts they claim to have with the American people.
Robbie, why would she say something that is so flatly untrue? I have a copy here. It's not very long. It's the letter that Comey sent to Congress. On the front page, it's got the 8 Republican chairmen of the committees. If you just turn it over, next page, you got the 8 top Democrats on the committee. Why would she say that it was just sent to the Republicans when, in fact, it was sent to the Republicans and Democrats?
You know, Chris, this has been really overhyped.
Well, she said it. I didn't.
We were all surprised by this letter. She looked at the front page, and as you just said yourself, on the front page of that memo, it lists those Republican chairs. Were the Democrats CC'd at the end of the letter? Absolutely. She looked at the front page of the letter. She has acknowledged, we all acknowledge, this was sent to everybody. Again, what we're concerned and disturbed by is that Director Comey sent a letter saying, we have some information. I don't know if it's significant. I don't know if it isn't. He didn't say where it came from. He didn't say what it was about. He didn't even say whether these emails were sent or received by Hillary Clinton. And furthermore, another hypothetical that's out there is that these are duplicates that have already been released. We need all the information, and Director
Robbie,
Comey needs to get it out.
I want to make one more point about this letter. You say it's hyped. Comey sent the letter about 1 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. Your campaign chairman, John Podesta, put out a statement at 3:45 p.m. in which he's made exactly the same charge that this letter had been sent just to the Republicans, not to the Democrats. 3 hours and 15 minutes later, Hillary Clinton makes the same charge. This was a talking point of your campaign, and frankly, it was a dishonest talking point.
Chris, if your question is whether Democratic leaders were CC'd on that letter, the answer is absolutely yes. What's disturbing about
No, what's disturbing about all of this is that she was lying. She was lying about what it was that was going on. She didn't want to tell the truth. She wanted to try and make political hay out of this, claiming that it was the evil, big, bad Republicans that were going after her. This sort of stuff is what drives the voters nuts, because it's what we consider holistically, intellectually disingenuous and fake about politics. Basically, these people act as though they can get away with anything, and in the case of Hillary Clinton, that original outcome by the FBI proved that she literally could. Now, however, we are seeing that the light of truth always has a way of shining through, and that karma is a real female dog with respect to how it bites back. And it is biting back here. Clinton lied. There can be no question about that. There can be no denying that. There's no sugarcoating or candy coating that. Clinton lied to the American people. She tried to say that it was only sent to the Republican members of Congress because that's the narrative that they want you to believe. And recall, as I had covered in a much earlier Solo Flight special edition of our state-of-the-art radio program, I mentioned that when you want to try and obfuscate the truth, or when you want to try and have a major political talking point, the thing that you do is you try and create a false narrative. And that these perceptions in politics, oftentimes, even if they're erroneous, matter more than reality. That is where we are. That is the current state of affairs with respect to the Clinton camp and these email scandals. Now, we have to recall that this scandal originally came up during the early part of 2015. And what it was is there was a discovery that she had used a private email server server, and that led to the development of this scandal. When you look at David Petraeus, he was forced to step down and face criminal charges for mishandling of classified information with that mistress of his that was also his biographer. We see that most anyone else in the government was required to use a government email address, and that was for cybersecurity reasons, national security reasons. And literally what she did is she placed the national security of these United States of America in direct and dire jeopardy. We have these rules in place for a reason. It's not just to have aha gotcha moments with certain individuals within government. It's not to try and make it to where you have all of these hurdles to jump through. No, we have these things in place in order to ensure that the information cannot easily fall into the hands of hackers. And just to give you an idea of how powerful cyber warfare can be, recall that before the nuclear talks with Iran, there was this worm, and this was a few years back, a worm that was developed and utilized to basically paralyze the Iranian nuclear program. And it worked. It caused their computers to melt down. Look at how much damage Edward Snowden was able to do by showing just the great extent that our own National Security Agency, or NSA, went forth and was data mining and gathering information. And then there was the hacked emails from the DNC. When you have that kind of activity and people that are capable of gaining the secrets of the United States, that can be devastating. In wartime, you always want to have that sort of intelligence. One of the greatest breakthroughs of the Allied cause in the Second World War was the cracking of the German Enigma machines and codes. And what we were able to do is we were able to know all of their troop movements, all of their supply concerns, all of their communiques were readily available to us. And then at Bletchley Park in England, we were reading the German information and intelligence at real time. That can happen even more so with cyber information. We don't want those forces that are working in opposition of the best interests of the United States of America and her people to be able to have carte blanche with respect to reading this information that is highly sensitive. And we know that during the course of this scandal that it came forth that Hillary had essentially kept this private email server in a Colorado loft apartment bathroom. Now, what kind of security could you have there? What kind of security could you have for all of those secret documents that were stored on that email server? Folks, this is beyond the pale. This is beyond atrocious. And it shows that she does not have the leadership capability to be the next president of the United States. She broke the law. And now we're seeing that the FBI is coming back and reevaluating it and investigating it again. But here's the thing. The talking points of the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists that control the DNC has been that all of these investigations of Madam Clinton are just a political witch hunt. They want you to think that it was nothing. They want to downplay it. They want to make it seem as though it's one of this erroneous, oh, it's the Republican war on women, or one of the other made-up wars that they have created. But no, it is not that. It is that this woman, through her sheer arrogance and incompetence, has placed the entire national security of our entire republic in great danger. It is an open, obvious, clear, and present danger that we are facing in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. And folks, there is no way around that. This is what Hillary Clinton has done. And so, again, we see that as we are just a week away from that point in which the American people will head into the ballot box to make their determination for the next president of the United States of America, we see that both of these candidates are a walking disaster. We have Trump, who can't seem to keep his thumb steady, so he's out there basically going forth and just tweeting horrible things about people, and that's disgusting because it reflects poorly upon his restraint and his personal character. We have the facts that he went forth and tried to beg the Russians to hack into Hillary's emails. That's not something you do when it was already under investigation at the time. And now that the FBI is going forth and reopening this, I'm sure that the line of contention that will be put forth by the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftist, which we already saw there with Robbie Mook. God, what a name, folks. I can't get over that. But anyway, that people like Robbie Mook and the left will sit there and say that this is just the Republicans stirring up things to try and manipulate the election. Now, I don't think this is just Republicans stirring this up to try and influence the election. This is something that has been ongoing. This is something that just won't go away, despite the best efforts of the graduates of Pavlov School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media and all of the Democrats to make it go away. They would love to be able to stick their heads in the sands and to proclaim that it's not there. But it is there. And the American people are aware of its existence. We are aware of the danger that it has placed our entire nation in, and that is not something that will be easily forgotten nor forgiven. But why is it that Hillary can still, despite all of this going forward, managed to hold a lead over the gutless opposition party or GOP presidential nominee in all the polls? Now, first, let me preface that by saying that polls aren't always accurate, but they were very much more accurate in 2012 than what the Republican Party wanted to admit, and we fell into this trap of saying, you just ignore them. No, there's a poll, or, there's a trend there with these polls. It's been a trend that has been with us going all the way back to the primary process, and it explains why my first officer, Jeremy Grapington, and I warned all the way back then that if we chose Trump to be our nominee, if we selected him, that he would be the only one of that slate of 17 or so candidates who could not defeat Hillary, who would make Hillary look good. And that's what's happened. That's why she can still maintain a lead, despite the fact that she is really, really doing some awful criminal things. And unfortunately, that is what happens when a nation loses sight of its moral compass, when it loses sight of the natural law tenets that form the bedrock foundation not only of the Constitution, but of the entire republic. We begin to see that candidates keep getting worse and worse and worse, and our national security is ignored over and over again, to the point of where it's almost as though we are desensitized to all of it. And I hate to say that. I hate to see that the nation has fallen into such such desperate times and such difficult scenarios as this, because it's really ultimately we, the people, the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in the United States, who suffer from this. Because what we have is On the one hand, a buffoon who didn't know what the nuclear triad was, which, for those of you who don't know, the nuclear triad is our three-pronged approach for nuclear defense. We have the air wing, which is aircraft such as our B-52 that can deliver a nuclear payload. We have our intercontinental ballistic missiles that are located in silos in the United States. And then, perhaps most importantly, we have our nuclear subs, the boomer subs, that are able to traverse the oceans of this world and launch their payload from wherever they are submerged. They're the stealthiest wing. Trump didn't know what that was. He didn't care to know. He was going to consult his own bigly, or is that now big league? He needs to work on his enunciation. Big league defense things, but he's got his big league brain that he refers to and that he consults with. That's stupid. That's dangerous. But then you have Hillary Rotten Clinton, who lied about Benghazi by saying that it was a movie, even though she knew at that time that it was actually a terrorist attack on September 11th of 2012. You know, the date of it really should have tipped that off to anyone. I mean, a blithering idiot could have figured out that it was a terrorist attack from the date alone, because that is what these Islamo-fascist barbarians always do. They like to choose dates with significance. Think of the original 9/11 attack. Why would they do it? First of all, 911 is the number that we call for an emergency. Second of all, that date for New York was significant because on September 11th of 1776, that is when the colony of New York and the city of Manhattan fell to the British regulars. So you see, it's always compounded, having these important dates there, forming kind of a pyramid that comes down to essentially add significant meaning to what they were trying to say. Basically, it is a symbolic gesture of sheer, unadulterated hatred. And that's what they did on September 11th of 2012, because it just added one more layer to it. That is how these people think. But of course, because of the twin cancerous doctrines of moral relativism and political correctness, we see that the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists don't want to blame Islamo-fascism for this. They want to blame us. And you see, that's the thing. The only ones that they expect to ever be held accountable for things, even to the point where they'll make crap up, are those whom they consider are directly and diametrically opposed or oppositional to their twisted goals and machinations, which truly have no place in an open, honest, but above all, free society like that of the United States of America. That's where we are. That is what Hillary Rotten Clinton has done to us. That is what this email scandal shows. And, you know, it's trick or trash since we're at Halloween. Trick or trash. You trash the emails and hope they go away. And of course, if it had been any other gutless opposition party candidate currently vying for the highest office of the land, they would have effectively made this stick. But because it's Trump, we see that all of those bigly skeletons, or is that big league skeletons, coming out of that walk-in closet of his that really ought to be called a cemetery, just come up to drip, drip, drip like a scandal over and over again, like that leaky faucet, eroding the strength and power of the GOP. And what's truly abhorrent about all of this, what's truly disgusting about all of this, is when you have a candidate as weak as Hillary Rotten Clinton. This should have been the Republican or conservative election cycle to win. But instead, we have a charlatan in there who says that, recall, it's the Republican Party, not the Conservative Party. And so essentially, what he's doing is any time that Hillary Clinton begins to find herself in any lick of trouble, He goes out to stick his foot in his mouth in front of the cameras of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media. Again, it's all done as though he were was a Democrat plant, or is a Democrat plant. Maybe so. I mean, I don't want to engage in conspiracy theories because I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I do understand that the great weight of the circumstantial evidence is to such a degree that there really is no other way to put this. There really is no other way to parse this, folks. What we are facing right here, right now, as I sit down and speak into this microphone, conveying this message unto you, is a disaster. Is there any wonder that huge swaths of the American electorate are so disenfranchised with the entire system? They're fed up. And why? Well, on the one hand, you have the gutless opposition party, or GOP, that will give all of these grandiose and verbose promises that they won't keep. And then you have the Democrats that are trying to drive us off a cliff. So the gutless opposition party sits there and collaborates with the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists. And as a result, it is ultimately we, the people, the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this country, who suffer the consequences of this. We lose our influence, we lose our standard of life, our quality of life, and we see that our very sovereignty hangs in the balance. Folks, this is not something that can be taken lightly. Yet, that's what the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media would have us do. That's what the so-called right-wing commensurate and punditry would do. People that have sold their souls to basically either hike up their ratings or to do it for a profit. And of course, the ones I'm looking at with respect to this are Laura Ingraham Incompth, Michael Weena Savage, Lush Bimbo Limbaugh, and, of course, Sean Hannity, and to a lesser extent, Mark Levin. Mark Levin would probably say now that anything that is brought up against Trump is just Hillary trying to run subterfuge, instead of saying, look, Trump needs to get a handle on his message. He needs to actually stand up for conservative policies, which he won't. And therefore, you must dig your conscience. You must make the ultimate determination for yourself. Your vote is not something to be freely given away. It's not something that should be taken for granted. And that's the problem with the gutless opposition party, or GOP. For election cycle after successive election cycle, they have taken our voice and our vote for granted. And now they spit in our face, just as they have every other time. Well, enough is enough. I'm going to vote down ballot to try and maintain a Congress that will stand up. I know Congress is not standing up, but it is time that we apply pressure to them. With respect to the top of the ticket, I'm disappointed. I cannot, in good conscience, vote for either of the two mainstay political parties' nominees. I can't, because they do not represent my values. They do not value the same thing that I do. They don't advocate the Constitution. And folks, there is only one thing in this nation that defines us, that unites us, and that protects us from a rogue and tyrannical government. That, of course, is the supreme law of the land, which, pursuant to Article 6, Clause 2, is the Constitution of the United States itself. That's what we swear allegiance to. And when none of the candidates of the two mainstay parties support that, then they have not earned my vote, because I am not willing to freely give that away. And just as Hillary Clinton's ghost of emails past has come up for all of this trick or trash scandal, I think my conscience would haunt me forever if I broke down and basically awarded the party's misdeeds and malfeasance in supporting a man like Donald Trump. That is disgusting. It is not something that I could sit down and tolerate. And if you feel that that's necessary and what's necessary for you to do, by all means, we will not condemn you for it. We are just wanting you to be empowered to act for yourself and to think for yourself. You know, with all of the plethora of scandals that have been surrounding Hillary Clinton, you would think that if Donald Trump were actually serious about winning, he would focus on them. He would actually discuss them. He would point out how her policies are disastrous for the country. And yes, he'll pay he'll pay lip service to it, but it's not something he believes. It's not something that he actually goes forth and professes to be true in any meaningful fashion. Instead, he just tries to make it personal. He goes down this same line that he went down since the beginning of his candidacy for the highest office in the land, and that was by basically saying he was going to attack people or go after personal characteristics of people, such as their appearance or whatnot. These things that don't matter. These things that have no reflection on what is necessary to be the next commander-in-chief of these United States of America. And again, that's part of the problem that a lot of the Never Trump movement has with Trump. It's that he doesn't show any type of restraint. And when you consider just how far the office of President of the United States has divorced and distanced itself from the actual powers that are enumerated unto it by the clear and concise language contained in Article 2, which is the part of the Constitution that establishes and outlines the duties, obligations, and responsibilities of the office of president, you see that he is not one who is good for the office. Why? Because restraint and Trump are not two things that we see coming together. And so the ghost of videos past comes forth to haunt Trump on this trick or trash day. And it's also the ghost of his own mouth, of his own ego, of his inability to be a likable candidate. And that's one of the things that we have been warning about with respect to Trump going back to the first month that we were on the air back in 2015. It was that he does not have the characteristics which are suitable for being commander-in-chief of the United States of America. And again, recall that during the primary process, he promoted violence. He said that that was okay. That's thug-like tactics. That's rabble-rousing. That's not the American system of polity. Nobody is under the erroneous belief or the fantastical belief that politics is a clean and nice game. It's not. It's dirty. It's ugly. It's negative. And it's highly contentious. It's adversarial. But we do need to have civil discourse. We need to have a marketplace of ideas. And this is the shortfall of both of the two mainstay political parties, because they aren't looking for a greater interest of the American people, a greater good in this nation. And that's one of the things that is lamentable about the current state of affairs that is ailing and afflicting this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. Instead of focusing on what's important, such as national security, defending our rights, adhering to the Constitution, we have two candidates that want to expand the scope and breadth of the federal government, irrespective of the deleterious and just detrimental impact that that will have on the American people and their fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. You see, Trump has an opportunity to to win people over. He did, anyway. I think the window for that opportunity has closed, in which he would say, look, the Constitution is very important, and I will do everything to rule by the Constitution, and I will be your employee. But that's not how he comes across. He comes across as an autocrat. And he has a track record, a proven track record over the past 30 plus years of going out and singing the praises of dictators. He has been the enabler of the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists through funding and through donations. And then he says that that's a good thing. He goes out and he brags about it. He thinks that that is a good thing to be a bombastic blowhard about. But no, nothing could be further from the truth. But we see that as we approach even closer to that election, because remember, folks, we are but 7 days or 1 week away from Election Day, that Trump doubles down on this sort of insanity, this sort of vulgarity that has been the hallmark of his candidacy ever since he threw his hat into the ring back in July of 2015. This time, however, it centers around Vice President Joe Biden. And remember that during the primary process, he spoke about wanting to punch them in the face. Well, now the haymaker hay hair has decided that he would like to punch Joe Biden. Now, we don't like Biden either. We don't think he's that wonderful guy. Shotgun Joe has mental issues, I get the feeling. Or at least maybe the hair plugs are thinking for him. But what we see is that Trump, in this time when all he has to do is keep that big mouth of his shut to allow things to fall as they may and, harm Hillary Clinton, no, he has to once again go along this predictable pattern that he always follows of saying something utterly ridiculous and stupid, something that is not reflective of the type of characteristics that we expect from those who will wield the reins of political power in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. I wish that weren't the case. I wish that Trump would grow up. But he is a permanent adolescent. He is stuck in a childlike mentality, and he thinks that that's what buoyed him up, and in a way it may, because of the disillusioned conservatives that supported him and the crossover Democrats and open primaries that came over and supported him. But remember, he wanted to reach out to disillusioned Noid-face point me Sanders Vermont Senator voters because Thunderboy liquor and free crap and excrement for everybody. I'm the flying saucer. No, it doesn't work. And so he alienates the base of the Republican Party, true, dyed-in-the-wool constitutional compositionists. He goes out and says stupid and moronic things, and then he goes out and he says he wants to punch Biden. And folks, like I said, we don't like Biden. Biden's a moron. Biden's a gaffe machine, one of the worst. He was the worst until Trump decided to enter into the arena of American politics. But I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to hear it and see it from the man's own mouth as he was standing there in front of the cameras for the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media in an arena with a rabid crowd. So let me go ahead and key this up because I think it's important that we see this, and then I will speak to it in general and allow us to discuss it in greater detail. So let me go ahead and get this up, and then we will discuss it. So here we go. Just give me one more second here. It's okay. Here we go.
And then, you saw this with Biden. You know, tough guy. He's a tough guy. He's so tough that he's doing a great job in defeating ISIS, isn't he? He's doing a great job in negotiating the Iran deal, right? They laugh at us. But he called me to the back of the gym. I dream about that. I dream about it. Oh. But, you know what I did like this? Watch. And he's down. He's down. He would go down so fast. But somebody said something today that was very interesting. They said, you know, he made that statement, I'd like to take him to the back of the gym. I wish he talked that way to ISIS, right? So I'd like to take him to the back of the gym. And somebody said, you know, the announcers, these crooked people back here, they're disgusting. No, they were all saying, oh, what a wonderful statement. Oh, it was so wonderful the way he said that. Oh, isn't that great? Now, if I would have said, I'd like to take Biden to the back of the gym, they'd say, he's a bully. He's a mean, horrible man, right? He's a horrible man. But with Biden, they thought it was so nice. One person even said, that was so cute. Oh, boy. Folks, we better win on November 8th. We better win.
We better win or what? We better win or else you'll never forgive the American people, like you said. We better win or else I'm going to throw a trumper tantrum of the worst sort. Give me an ever-loving break. The American people deserve and demand better than this. And there can be no question that what Trump is doing here is he's once again rabble-rousing. He's once again trying to turn to violence because that is who he is. It's what he believes in. It's what he wants to see come to the fruition. But that's the last thing that we need. And so once again, he goes out there and he makes a fool of himself. And yes, what Biden said, wanting him to take him back to the gym, as I said before we even played that sound clip, that video there, Biden is a gaffe machine. Biden shouldn't say stupid excrement like that. I don't like Biden. I won't support Biden. I never supported Biden. And I won't support Trump either because Trump falls to his level. We don't fall to their level. We show that we're better than they are. And the way that we do that is we go back to basics. And basics in this country is what it has always been. The clear and concise language contained within the four corners of our shared United States Constitution. I know that that's difficult for Trump to figure out. I know that he struggles with that concept. It's too big league for him. Or is that bigly? It sounds like bigly. Used in the syntax that he's used it, it would be bigly, not big league. But who talks like that? Well, Trump. But it doesn't reflect how we are going to get the nation back on the track. And it doesn't reflect that he's going to do anything to make the nation more secure. Sure, we'll bomb the excrement out of ISIS. Great. How? You have to have a plan. And no, you don't have to lay out everything of the plan, but you have to at least have some cohesive process for the American people. Stop treating us as if we're children. I think that's another reason that I cannot stand this man. I feel as though he talks down to me and insults my intelligence. My education is higher than Trump's. Not blowing my own horn here. It's just I do not want to be told that I'm essentially a moron and how are we going to stop ISIS? We're going to make America great. Well, how are we going to make America great? Well, we're going to do it by stopping ISIS. Well, how do you stop ISIS? Other than just bombing them. How do you have it to where there is something to take the place of the power vacuum in the region? He doesn't know. And Hillary Clinton is not going to do it. As we see from all of this email crap, she has no idea what's going on other than to try and push forward the same frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftist agenda that we have been hampered with throughout this two disastrous terms of the Barack Hussein Obama regime. Again, that doesn't reflect on what will help the nation or propel the United States of America to the path to prosperity again. And of course, as we have oft-times reiterated on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, the only way that we can place this nation back onto the path to prosperity is to have the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, we the people, unchained and unshackled from these draconian type of governmental regulations and edicts and controls that have been weakening us and harming us for, at least a half century now. Instead, we see that Trump proposes all of these things that are for expanding the scope of government and are going to push us even further into debt and not stay in line or strictly adhere to the tenets, the fundamental principles that are found in our Constitution. That in and of itself continues to be a great problem facing the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours, we the people. But that's Trump for you. Trump is just who he is. He does whatever he wants. He disregards what's important for the nation, and ultimately that comes back to haunt us. Now, here's the other major thing. We see that with the email scandal that is once again haunting Madam Clinton, that there's now talk that Anthony Weiner, Tony Weiner tweeting his wiener, Carlos Danger, maybe connected with this. But stop and think about it. Why would she have been sharing secrets with Tony Weiner? Huma was always at her side, so she wouldn't have needed to communicate through Carlos Danger to share that information with Huma. So again, the narrative just doesn't quite make sense. But I did think it was interesting that Biden, whom Trump apparently has these bizarre fantasies about punching him, dreams about it in his sleep, said that he didn't like Tony Weiner and that he never liked the Weiner because he's just a deplorable human being, if we could even call him human. Well, Biden, thank you for actually doing something intelligent for once. You shouldn't like Tony Weiner. Maybe in time you will come to not like your own political party and you will admit the mistakes of your political party, but I find that highly dubious and I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, folks. But here's the thing. Why is it that in this modern arena of American politics, we have people like a Tony Weiner, like a Donald Trump, like a Hillary Clinton, like an even shotgun Joe Biden, who supposedly represent the best and brightest of us? If that is the best and brightest in the United States of America, we're in trouble. But they're not really the best and brightest. The best and brightest are those who serve in the military, those who go out of their way to defend the Constitution, those who work to maintain the United States of America as the republic we know and love. Those are the best and brightest, and they don't want to have much to do with our system of polity because of the visceral and nasty nature of it, because of the way that the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media will attempt to make them look like villains and poltroons at any available given opportunity. That is the harsh, stark reality that we face in this country. And unfortunately, folks, I don't see it improving at any time within the foreseeable future. And that, too, is just unfortunate, because it really works to the great detriment of the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, we the people. So what is it that made Comey, the FBI director, try and come forth and reopen this investigation? Steve Deace, the Iowa radio host who came into prominence during this primary season, seems to think that it may be Comey trying to throw the election for Trump. He brought this up in a conservative review piece that he wrote, in which he said, could Comey's Wienergate bombshell deliver the election to Trump? It could. It maybe could. But is that something that we would want a name to fame to be? One pervert allows another pervert to assume the mantle of political power in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours? I think the answer to that question should be both open and obvious. But here is what Deace was saying in the overview. To accurately answer this question, which is, was this done to essentially hand the election to Trump, we must first set the scene of where the race stood prior to that bombshell released on Friday. Here is what was in play. Donald Trump had been tied or led in only 5 of 44 international polls, and they were all narrow leads. In Rasmussen and LA Times, the 2 polls that had been notoriously favorable to Trump all year long, it was just mere points. Then we had Clinton holding a 5.6 point lead in the Real Clear Politics polling average, which is almost where Barack Obama was back in 2008 and his rout of John McCain. Trump led only in 1 of the previous 5 polls of reliable red state Arizona. He was only ahead in 3 polls of Colorado since June, and no one has won the presidency without Colorado in the past 2 decades or 20 years. He led in 2 of the previous 14 polls in Florida and only 1 of the previous 15 polls for North Carolina. And without either of those 2 states, he really has no chance of winning the Electoral College. And then his one and only lead in any Pennsylvania poll was back in mid-July. He has not led in any poll of Virginia. No Republican has won the White House without it since Reconstruction. So we're talking the period between 1866 and 1878, round or about. And only 4 polls had him behind in Virginia by fewer than 5 points. So we see that we were already facing what can only be described as a disaster waiting in the wings. And so now, all of a sudden, the timing of this reopening of the election could be suspect or not. I think that clearly what Clinton did was wrong. We don't like Clinton. We don't want Clinton. But maybe the system is rigged. Remember that when this was first opened up, Trump went out and said, maybe the system's not as rigged as I originally thought. He's trying to have it both ways, folks. He's trying to have his cake and to eat it too, but that is just not how our system of polity works. And we should be very wary of these attempts to redefine us, of these attempts to essentially make Trump appear as a good candidate. Neither one of these candidates are good. And so the ghost of emails past continues to haunt Hillary. But the ghosts of Trump's own making, the skeletons walking out of that big league walk-in closet of his, are still haunting him. And it could spell disaster for the rest of the gutless opposition party down ticket. And yes, what a lot of the Lion Branch Trumpidians who are congregating there in their Trumpidian tabernacle are trying to profess and come forth with and contend throughout this entire fiasco and disaster is that, look, Trump may say stupid things, but he's better than Hillary. And if you don't support him, then you're supporting Hillary. It's the same tyranny of false unity that they have espoused over and over and over again. They pulled that play right out from the detente wing or the establishment wing of the Republican Party's playbook. Meanwhile, Trump continues to go out and say idiotic things. He continues to go forth and make a big league fool of himself and threatens to place the entire sanctity of this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours in dire jeopardy. This should have been a very easy election cycle for the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, and yet here we are. It is not the case. We are facing the same damaging effects that we were facing in 08. It's just a little worse now. And so when we look at it in these confines, we have to wonder whether the henny penny, the sky is falling rhetoric will work, whether they can actually push us into a tyranny of false unity, because that's certainly what they would like. It's certainly what they would like. And it's really shocking that what we see here may have been a last-ditch play to try and put an extra coat of lipstick on this pig, on this ugly pig who does not represent any of our traditional conservative values and who has made a fool of himself time and time and time again. Folks, we can ill afford that, and it's not going to work. In fact, what Steve Deace said in his Conservative Review article's conclusion was, quote, "Unless a smoking gun is found between now and Election Day, it is unlikely this new FBI story will alter the ultimate outcome by itself. Too many people have already voted, and too many voters are already more comfortable with Clinton's negatives than Trump's for the election to swing Trump's way without additional help." But what it doesn't mean is that it might not have a huge impact. It could still have a huge impact. Let's say Clinton wins the White House, which it sort of looks like she will. This gives grounds for immediate impeachment. Yes, it means we'd be left with Tim Kaine, but so what? When they go in as damaged goods, it's something that we can use to once again begin to position ourselves to assume the mantle of responsibility that we, as the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty, must. And that is to begin to demand accountability at all levels of government and to demand that the entire edifice of American politics returns to the Constitution, that we go back to that foundational document that not only defines us and our government, but is the only thing around which we unify and are called to swear allegiance to in these United States of America. That is the fundamental truth that we have to accept. That is what we have to work towards. But it's far easier said than done. Far easier said than done because the Lion Branch Trumpidians are claiming that they have reconquered the party, that they are going to hold on to control the gutless opposition party, or GOP, from this point forward. In other words, they are going to work to try and dispel and to oust true, dyed-in-the-wool constitutional compositionists from this day forevermore, from the ranks of the Republican Party. But the only way that that can be successful is if we allow that to be successful. And therefore, we must be proactive in maintaining and safeguarding our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights, which means that we have to take the difficult stance. And if there's any people on the face of God's green earth that can overcome any hurdle, obstacle, and adversity that has ever been placed in their path, it is we, the people of these United States. It is the freedom of the American people. It is our penchant for liberty. It is the natural law tenets that have underpinned our Constitution and our republic since its inception that allowed the United States to reach such lofty heights in her relatively brief yet illustrious history. That is what we must recall. That is a message of empowerment. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, it is time for us to begin our descent. I'm going to send the flight attendant back with a bag of candy, say trick or trash, and she will give you whatever candy you want. As always, folks, I'm your captain, Randy Wright, and I want to thank you for choosing to fly the Wright Flyer. I invite you to leave any questions, comments, or concerns you may have either here at our YouTube page or our Google Plus page or our Facebook page. And on top of that, I invite you to follow us at Twitter with the Twitter handle at Radio Aviation EX. One more time, folks, that's at Radio Aviation EX. And there you will find the departure board that lists my personal Twitter account, the personal Twitter account of my first officer, Jeremy Grapington, our Blogspot account where we have audio-only versions of our state-of-the-art radio program. Plus, I also embed the video in it. So if you just want to have a very quick space to get to the videos and to the audio and have your selection there, you can check those out. And then there is also the Cafe Press account, which I'm going to leave in the description of today's program, where you can buy all sorts of special goodies to hand out for trick or trash. And that would be shirts, hats, neckties, drinking glasses, shot glasses, laptop covers, tote bags, phone sleeves and protectors, buttons, jewelry, watches, clocks, you name it, with either our original Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer logo on it, or our First Class Passenger logo on it. There's so much there at reasonable prices, and they make great and fantastic gifts. So folks, go ahead and take a look at that and give us a little bit of support. We will see you next time. Please do take care.